All right, we are live. Um, Welcome everyone to what I think is hour 12. Are we really on hour 12 at this point? Yes, we are on hour 12 of the CosmoQuest Hangoutathon 2026. We are working to raise money for all of our different programs here at CosmoQuest, and we're dreaming of a future where our numbers are out of date. I get to update numbers and share them. So we are up to not a palindrome. We are up to $4,555 unkindful. We are up to uh we are up to 1.49 on Patreon. And we are holding tight. Um, I'll be updating all of the numbers in a moment. We're at 235 on the charity stream part of this stream. Um, we have a long ways to go. We're not going to do all of our fundraising today. This is just the start of a campaign. Now, as part of our dreaming, I am dreaming of having the time to dedicate to doing observational astronomy research again. And part of what will potentially make that a possibility is Starfront Observatory. And in the background, invisible because he's been replaced by something cooler, which is the Andromeda Galaxy. No offense to you, but Andromeda is pretty cool. Um, is a colleague who is teaching me how to do remote observing with Starfront Observatory systems. I'd love you to explain what it is we're looking at and why it looks like Andromeda is surrounded by filaments. It looks like a watercolor painting the way it's been processed or showing up through Zoom. I don't know which.
I think that's a Zoom thing that's causing it to look
Oh,
past your eyes.
okay. All right.
It should look normal. I can
No,
drag a
it's
screenshot
no,
and
it's
put.
it's all good. It's just my screen that makes it look like it's been put through a watercolor painting filter. It looks amazing. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna be quiet now and ask you to.
What?
I just had Allie come up being slightly traumatized because she carried her mic with her, and I completely turned the mic off, so it was fine. All right, sorry, IP. Can you introduce us to what we're looking at and what Starfront Observatory is?
Yeah, so this is a live view of the Andromeda Galaxy that I'm currently capturing from a system located at Starfront Observatories. Um, so the way Starfront works is that, if you have a backyard setup that you've been setting up in your, you know, setting up locally, and you're looking for darker skies or clearer skies or both, then you can take your system and pack it up and ship it or deliver it to Starfront. And then Starfront will set it up under dark skies that are pretty clear. And then after your install, you can remotely control it, which is what I'm doing right now. And you can point at whatever you want.
And what I love about this is you don't have to worry about altitude sickness, which is something I'm super susceptible to. And you can live the multiple lives of an astronomer and a day dweller a
Oh, yeah.
whole lot easier with what you're doing. Um, so when you say this is a live image, can you explain exactly what's going on to folks that don't have experience? Oh,
Sure.
and we have a
So,
raid coming in. I'm sorry. your live video. We have raiders coming in from Astro Canuck, another astrophotographer, another volunteer astronomer who does amazing stuff out there. Welcome, raiders! We are joined this hour by IP from Starfront Observatories, who's trying very hard to get all the way through a sentence, and I keep not letting him. I'm going to be quiet, and IP is going to explain the amazing thing that he's doing that is allowing us to see Andromeda and its nearest friends.
So what we're looking at right here is this is the nighttime imaging in astronomy program, what's known as NINA. And this is what's orchestrating all the various hardware and software that controls the imaging run. So we'll start with a camera. This is what's actually doing the picture taking. And then we're looking through a filter. It's in a filter wheel. Currently we're looking through the blue filter. It's black and white because the camera is monochrome, but if we were going to make a color image, then this would be the blue channel of that image. And then there's a focuser on it as well, so that I already focused it before we went live, but if it wasn't in focus, then we could use the focuser to adjust the focus position and make all the stars sharp. And then most importantly, we have a mount that will track the stars, because as everyone is probably aware, the Earth turns, and from our perspective on Earth, that makes the stars appear to move through the sky, so the mount will counteract the Earth's rotation and make it so that the stars are not trailed. But the mount isn't quite perfect, so you have a guiding program that will use a separate imaging system that updates much more frequently, and it will take a look at all the stars in that separate imaging system and compare the position of the stars to where they should be. And if they're not where they should be, then it will issue a correction to the mount to move the mount back to where it should be pointing. And then lastly, there's a safety monitor that is looking at the roof system. So this is one of the benefits of having your system at Starfront. You don't have to worry about setting up or tearing down or having your gear get rained on if you sleep through your alarm or sleep through the weather notice. And the weather gets bad, and in the daytime as well, the roofs will just shut. But right now, roofs are open, clear, skies are clear. There's a super bright moon, so that's, kind of an astronomer's worst enemy, but other than clouds. But other than that, that's how it works.
And what really amazes me is, like, I've been doing astronomy for all my life that's meaningful. I worked at a 6-meter telescope when I was 17. It was the largest telescope in the world at the time. I reduced VLA data as my high school job. One of my high school jobs. I was an overachiever and needed to have 2 jobs in high school. I've been doing astronomy my entire life, and what you're able to accomplish with these small telescopes that, like, it takes less than a crane to move is as good as we were doing with meter-sized telescopes when I was young. And it's because the technology is so much better. I remember spending night after night after night sitting there with a joystick, watching the readout from our guide camera and steering the telescope to keep the star on the crosshairs. And I'm going to sneeze. And you're now using telescopes that normal humans can get access to, taking these amazing images. And it's easier than what we used to do. I really love this. So you're looking at Andromeda now. Can you tell us more about what telescope you're currently using?
Sure. So this is a RedCat 61. from William Optics. Let me check the current price.
What size is it?
It is a 61 millimeter aperture telescope, so that's just a bit over 2 inches in aperture.
That's so tiny. Like this big.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
these
it's roughly f5, just under f5.
that
So it has
that's the
a length of
focal ratio. It describes how fast it can collect data essentially.
yeah. So it's just like in photography, the smaller the f ratio, the brighter the image.
Yeah.
So the Red Cat 61 is about $1,400 currently. And I believe the camera is somewhere like just under 2,000, which is, for a normal person, that's not exactly cheap, but
No.
compared to a professional observatory, that's like, bargain.
Well, and this is one of the things that I was talking about earlier tonight is we all spend money on our hobbies. I was a horseback rider and equestrian for a lot of years, and I own a saddle. I own two bridles. I own a variety of different equipment. I was competitive, but I wasn't super competitive, and I probably spent a few $1,000s on gear, and then there's the amount of money that you spend to just own a horse. And I worked at the barns to help make that affordable, and my horse was used in lessons to help make that affordable. Um, we spend a lot of money on the things that we're passionate about that allow us to find joy outside of work. Now, I'm lucky as an astronomer, I find joy also in my work, which not everyone gets to do. And so me as a professional astronomer will grumble because I don't have access to narrowband filters, whereas a amateur astronomer, in the sense of like the way it used to be used for the Olympics, of someone not paid to do this but can still be the best in the world at what they're doing, the Olympians of amateur astronomy will go out and just buy that filter that I'm grouchy that I can't get a National Science Foundation grant for, and do amazing things. Now, what are the things that you are hoping to be able to do using these telescopes? We're currently looking out at one of the outer arm bands of Andromeda for those just joining us. There's the whole field.
Starfront doesn't control what you do with your telescopes. You can really do anything you want. Some people choose to just shoot targets that they're interested in. Sometimes that includes partnering up with other people at Starfront to combine data and get an even better image.
Yeah.
Other people are doing discovery work, so they're, pointing their telescope at a spot in the sky that no one's ever collected a deep integration of and seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
And if all goes well, then maybe there'll be some new object that no one's ever found. There's already been one new planetary nebula, at least, that's been discovered at Starfront.
And what's been cool to me is, so Starfront Observatories is a facility set up in West Texas, and there's a Discord that a lot of the community members are part of and share what they're imaging in. And some of the stuff that people have gathered, especially recently, of Comet Lemon, where you can see over time the changes in the dust tail of the comet, are absolutely breathtaking and are a reminder to many of us that when we as professional astronomers get like a night to look at something, it allows us to figure out, okay, so the comet has these molecules, it has these atoms, it has these temperatures. It captures the comet for a moment in time, and we can do really cool science with that. But by having access to your own telescope or working with a network like Starfront Observatories, the things that I'm seeing where people are gathering night after night after night, hour after hour, seeing the moment to moment variations is really the stuff of legend, for lack of a better way to put it. Veronica has dropped the Discord address for Starfront into the chat, and she's also asking, "Is that in color?" I'm pretty sure you're doing mono imaging right now. This is through a filter.
Yes, that is correct. This is a monochrome camera, so all the images, all the raw images it takes will be black and white. But then in processing, you can colorize this to. This is the blue filter that we're currently looking at. So
Yeah.
this would be a blue image. Going back to what you're saying earlier about narrowband filters, I find it. Here it is. So this is the Tadpoles Nebula, or there it is, and this is taken through an HA filter.
So H alpha is the 3-to-2 transition in the hydrogen atom. I think that's the correct transition. And it's a red color that we can see with our eyeballs. There's the Lyman series, which is ultraviolet, the Balmer series, which is more visual series of lines. And H alpha is just one of the most common lines that we can see at visual colors in the electromagnetic spectrum, and that rainbow of light that goes from radio up to gamma rays. And again, professional astronomers don't always have access to these narrowband filters. We don't always have the time to sit and stare at a field in the narrowband. And this is cool. I've never seen this looking like this before. Now, were you able to get much access to dark skies and telescopes before Starfront observatories came into existence?
Not nearly to the same extent. I mean, I could take a trip out to, a dark sky park. It's a few hours away, and have to deal with being tired the next day,
Yeah.
or deal with camping. But it's so much easier from Starfront.
A couple of years ago, I did a survey. I'm still working on processing the data. Life is sometimes not always willing to let you finish the research that you're not being paid to do. So this was research that I was doing out of curiosity. And one of the things that we were looking at is, so the folks that are using robotic observatories, what got them there? And we found that everyone that used robotic facilities had previously tried to observe, but either due to lack of dark skies or lack of good weather or both, they just couldn't collect the same quality and quantity of data that they wanted to. And so that got them using facilities like Starfront observatories, like the Virtual Telescope Network, like all these different things that are out there that give you a remote place. And Starfront observatories is the largest of these facilities, and it grew like weeds in Missouri. It just sprung up overnight, and somehow now there's 10 trees there. It's really amazing what's being accomplished. Now, we're doing a long series right now on Andromeda. I assume you're working to build up a set to do deep images of this?
Yes. Although right now I'm going to slew over to the Orion Nebula, take a look at it.
Oh, awesome. The winter sky this time of year offers this amazing distribution where you have the extremely young Orion Nebula, where the smallest stars are still in the process of forming. And then as you go up through Orion's body and through the head and off the right shoulder, you have over in Taurus the Hyades cluster. And then you have, vaguely continuing in the same direction, the Pleiades group. And in the Pleiades is then a middle-aged cluster. There's still some gas and dust in there, but the stars are pretty much done forming. And the Hyades is just old. The brightest stars have already gone nova. Things have already started to fall apart. And I just love that this streak through the sky allows you to see this is what it looks like when stars are forming. This is what it looks like when they're just cleaning up their nursery, a little bit of dust still scattered around. And this is what it looks like when you're looking at a bunch of teenagers. And this is that nursery right here. This is the finding image that currently is up on the screen. And what I love is just how easy it is for you to point and align and everything else. With the 107-inch telescope at McDonald Observatory, that was one of the scopes I used for my dissertation work. Because the telescope was that big, it could literally take chunks out of the elevator shaft, and it would occasionally. Like someone would screw up or the software would screw up, and that telescope would go on the attack. And so you weren't allowed to slew it unless you were standing there looking at it and able to hit the emergency stop button. I only ever once saw the emergency stop button have to be used, and 3 of us dove for 3 different emergency stop buttons because the telescope was trying to head for the wall to go through the control room. The software had a steering moment, and when a 107-inch telescope forgets how to steer, it's a bad day. But these telescopes, the one that you're using right now, is able to get on target, get centered more accurately, and be gathering data faster than that 107-inch could without fear of things being destroyed. And this is a gorgeous image.
Yeah. As long as you home your mount before you start it.
Well, you had to do that with the 107-inch too. Have you ever had like the system just suddenly lost its freaking mind for no obvious reason and you had to call for help?
Not personally, but I've heard horror stories of that happening.
Every
Okay.
telescope has the ability to lose its mind.
So this is the finding image that was used to make sure that we're pointing in the right location. This is only a few second image, but right now we're looking at we're about halfway through a 1-minute exposure that'll come through in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Looking at it again in H alpha.
And the Orion Nebula was actually the very first object that I know of that an astrophotography photo was taken of. It was done by someone who had photography as their hobby and astronomy as their other hobby and combined the two. And it was just a guy. His day job was he was working as a janitor, and that wasn't where his heart was. And so he combined that passion for photography with a telescope and exposed and exposed and exposed, because these were the days of glass plates, kept everything tracked and lined up, and took a picture of the Orion Nebula. And his telescope was a whole lot bigger than this.
Yeah. Technology has improved significantly. Right now we're pointing at the Running Man. Or rather,
That's
I'm
cool.
looking at the zoomed in portion of the image centered on the Running Man roughly. Are you able to see my cursor?
The new person's username, Vax Headroom.
So
Okay. So this is roughly. Say again?
I was just saying thank you to Vax Headroom for the follow and being new to the chat. Ali is giggling in the background at your username, and I have to say Vax Headroom speaks to my Gen X heart. You bring me joy. So how long have you been interested in astronomy and astrophotography, IP?
Oh man, it feels like kind of my whole life. I mean, my dad got me into it when I was, like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
An old photo of me standing next to the telescope that I helped him build back in the days of 8-inch, no tracking, fully manual Dobsonian. Back when
That's
Orion
cool.
telescopes was still around.
Yeah. Well, that was true up until like 3 years ago. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the kind of hobby that you can fall in love with as a child and be lucky enough to still carry with you as an adult when you have the money to buy cool toys, or the friends who have the money to let you borrow their cool toys, and both are equally valid. Um, I benefit from having friends with cool toys and who have access to cool toys. And over time, we're really looking forward to getting to work more and more with Starfront. I've talked to some of the team folks there. They have a, well, you want to tell them about Nighthawk? You've got to use it a whole lot directly.
Sure. So Nighthawk is one of the co-founders. Big Scopes that he sort of took all of his previous scopes and sold them and put all the money into a very large, well, large by amateur standards. It's a 24-inch f3 Newtonian, custom made. So it's just been it's been quite a ride getting it working, but it's going to be very impressive when it's working and firing on all cylinders.
Thank you for the follow, Twitch guy too. Thank you. So this 24-inch telescope with that small focal ratio is going to be capable of seeing a little over 1 degree field of view. With the camera that he's currently using is like half an arc second pixels. I think they're actually a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah,
And
they're about 0.44 arc seconds to be specific.
yeah, and it's, in terms of what it's capable of observing, it's very similar to the 30-inch telescope that I used for my master's thesis. It's way better than the 24-inch telescope that I used as an undergrad for all the research I did as an undergrad. And the number of pixels is phenomenal. The first CCD camera I was using was like 512 by 512 pixels, and we were amazed and joyful and happy, and it was awesome. And then in graduate school we got to have 2048 by 2048 pixels, and it was amazing. There was nothing better out there. And thank you for the sub, Vax Headroom. Thank you. And now I'm looking to build on research that I did early in my career using a 24-inch telescope that can do everything faster, higher resolution, and skies almost just as good as a professional West Texas higher altitude facility. The altitude is the biggest difference. The skies are pretty much very close in darkness.
Starfront is actually darker than some other remote observatories.
Yeah, it's true. It's an amazing site. And since I don't work in the infrared, I'm completely fine with its altitude. And so these are the things that I'm looking forward to. And when CosmoQuest is successful at bringing in the money to pay for the podcasts, to pay for the education, to pay for the citizen science research, that frees me to do these kinds of research projects, looking at variable stars and things like that, as kind of a side project, things that I'm doing. I'm not getting paid for that time, but I get to share all of it with you. I get to contribute to what we understand about the stars that I care about a lot, and hopefully get other people to help me out and learn how to contribute to this stuff as well. And yeah, so Starfront's going to give me that opportunity. We just need the pixels to be a little bit more. The telescope has a bit of wobble in the mirror that's getting fixed. and then I'll be able to get to my 20th magnitude stars that bring me joy. I have a problem. I really like clusters of things, and they need to be fairly far away to see the whole cluster. Thank you for the follow, Swarm Jen. Your name amuses me. I like it. So you're one of the many people who has been observing Comet Lemon's escapades. What are some of the things you've seen that you've really enjoyed so far?
Back when it was sort of in full swing, there was a really interesting tail dynamic event where normally with the way the comet off gases and the solar wind pushes it away, normally a comet's tail is going to be roughly straight, and there's generally not a whole lot of features within that. But Comet Lemon was very active, and there were quite a few interesting structures visible in the tail, which is not all that common.
And
then there was
go ahead.
I don't quite remember the date, but there was on one night, I was watching it from Nighthawk, but Nighthawk didn't have a big enough field of view to see this, but other people in the Starfront Discord were posting pictures, and they showed a tail that looked like a boomerang, almost. There was a nice bend in the tail as the solar wind affected the comet's output.
And this is one of the really cool things about this moment that we live in, where our sun has been so active lately. Here in the St. Louis area, we were actually able to see aurora multiple times over the past year. And just a couple of weeks ago, there was an amazing solar storm that they were able to see all the way down in Texas. And when the sun puts out that much energy, comet tails are like, whoa, okay, gonna go over here. Nope, gonna go over here. They're getting pushed around by the particles and the light, depending on if you're looking at the ion tail or the dust tail of the comet. And we see that when we look at these comets. So we're getting this amazing moment where we see the solar activity, we see the comet's activity, all of it shaping this tail that is literally just caught in the wind of the sun. And it's not often that we get to see the wind of the sun whip something around. It is the comet equivalent of a kid blowing bubbles as inconsistently as a kid can, because you have to dip it, you have to blow, you run out of air, you run out of soap. And then the wind moving those bubbles around. Except in this case, instead of bubbles, it's particles getting expelled off of the comet. And it's the comet that's doing it inconsistently. And then it's the wind of the sun. And the combination of those two different activities is just painting beautiful pictures that are changing with time. And it's amazing. Sorry, I just had to wax poetic about a comet tail, apparently. That was the thing.
I'm here for it.
So what you're now part of this community of observers. Does that challenge you to look at things you never considered looking at, or to do things differently than you've done before?
Yeah, I mean, we've done last year, there was a project on the Vulcan Nebula, which is by M81 and M82. It was discovered recently. It's extremely faint, but with about 1,600 hours of exposure time combined from a few dozen telescopes, we were able to get a pretty good looking image.
That's cool. That's very cool. And it's just continuing to chew out images slowly but surely, because that's what telescopes do. Now, we have about 10 minutes left in this session. Can you tell everyone how it is that you found Starfront and how they can find Starfront and join people like you in finding dark skies through the internet.
Sure. So, I mean, it was either May or June of last year. I think it was May. Bray. I saw Bray posted a video on his YouTube, and that's how I initially found it. And then, joined their Discord about a month later, and a year later, here we are.
Oh, your
We got
audio is
over
suddenly
600
really,
total
really
subs.
breaking up.
Uh-oh. Is it any better now?
It's a little bit. Speak slowly and loudly, and we'll do the best we can.
Okay. So, in probably around May of last year,
Oh,
saw
your
Bray
audio is
posted.
your audio is really not happy. Wait, others can
Uh-oh.
hear him fine. Okay, I bet this is my earphone running out of battery. Hold on, let me switch earphones.
Okay.
Waiting for it to go bing. Hello? Okay, hold on. I'm now not hearing anything. Can you say
So, for those that
something?
were
Yeah, that was my problem. I'm sorry. It's fixed. You sound perfect. My bad.
okay, good. Give me a chance to pull up the Vulcan Nebula image from
Awesome.
last year. So here's M81 and M82, and then here's the Vulcan Nebula. And all of this is integrated flux nebula, which is just dust at a high galactic latitude that is being illuminated by the combined light from all the stars in the Milky Way.
That's cool.
So this image is a standard RGB image combined with some hydrogen alpha, which is in red, and then oxygen 3, which is in teal, and then there's a very small amount of hydrogen beta. It's coming through in, whoa,
That's so
M82.
cool. M82 is one of the coolest objects. And you've done the
Yeah.
most fascinating, like the way you mapped color to this is super cool. It really it looks like modern art and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Adon is one of our members in the Starfront Discord, and he did an amazing job on the edit.
Yeah.
You can even see some of the Yuma arc here coming through the image. Actually, I think this is the Yuma arc, sorry. But Starfront Observatories is just been a crazy ride of doing things that, were not even thought of a year ago.
Yeah. It's cool. And if someone wanted to get involved, Starfront Observatory is an easy to use website. You can actually buy people gifts. There's gift cards, gift subscriptions to help people get involved. It's really becoming a Netflix for observing the night. Yeah. So Veronica asked, how long are the exposures? What kind of exposure times are you using?
So thus far, I've been using for the blue filter on M31 Andromeda Galaxy. That was a 3-minute exposure, and then when I switched to Orion after the plate solving exposure, I was doing a 1-minute exposure, just looping those. But I set it to take a 10-minute exposure, and that's what just came through right now.
Okay.
This is 10 minutes in Oxygen 3, showing the Orion Nebula and the Running Man Nebula.
I can't imagine just having access to an O3 filter.
Got any targets you want to look at?
Oh, not in the next 8 minutes, sadly. I mean, my heart will always belong to the Ursa Minor Dwarf Toroidal Galaxy. I think it's totally wrong for this particular telescope, considering the stars I love are 18th magnitude. Oh man, so what else is out there? So the Pleiades is out there right now. That's always a fun target. Right now, Uranus is super close. And and like you can see it as a not just star through a small telescope. This is a 2-inch. It's probably, since we are not looking with color, Uranus is probably a bad target. But for all of you out there, Uranus right now, like you can see it with binoculars. It's right on the edge of naked eye. It's at opposition. This is as good as it gets for looking at Uranus. Winter sky objects.
I could point at the horse head.
That works. Let's do that.
Okay.
One of the things that convinced me that AI lacks imagination is I, as a test case to see what would happen, ask AI to create a Horsehead Nebula, and it was the most terrible monstrosities you could imagine that came out of this. Don't ask AI to generate the Horsehead Nebula if you like yourself. And
Okay,
what's
so this is the image in the star atlas.
Yep.
Of the Horsehead Nebula. And so basically if you think back to, you know, ye olden times, you would have, you know, before Google Maps and whatnot, you would have you'd have a paper map. So this is basically the digital equivalent of that. But
Yep.
instead of being for the Earth, it's for the sky.
I carried my atlas back upstairs for a while. I had my astronomy atlas down here that I'd go grab when I was trying to figure out what were good targets. The Royal Canadian Astronomical Society puts out a yearly astronomical calendar guidebook. I don't remember the full name. It's the RNAC book that's this big by this big, and it lists out varieties of
Handbook, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it is, the Observer's Handbook. It is, you must own at least one copy if you do any amount of observing, and if you can, get a new copy every year so that you have that year's planets and meteors and lunar cycles. It's an amazing book when you just want to find a specific kind of target to be pointing at, or I used it most often as a grad student because my targets were so faint. I had to wait for the moon to set occasionally. I had to wait for the sun to finish getting all the way below the horizon. And there'd be this window of time quite often where I had the telescope up and ready and focused. And I couldn't look at my science yet. And so, like, one of my favorite silly things I ever did was I pointed a 107-inch telescope at the Owl Nebula and took a 5-minute exposure because I could. And it was cute. It was cute. I didn't have that many pixels. It was the 90s, but I knew I could do that because that guide existed. So now you know. Now you know. Oh, wow. I love how wispy that is. So the darkness in this image is where clouds of molecular gas and dust are so cold and so dense that they're blocking all the light from behind them. And then the thinner areas that are all illuminated are where the gas and dust is literally thinner. And like fog, the starlight is passing through it and scattering. And the red light is able to pass all the way through to us, which we see as that H alpha light. And if we were able to see this from the side, we'd see instead blue light getting scattered out of the way. So what we're looking at is a transmission nebula and a molecular cloud. It's just a glorious little field. And that density that is the Horsehead is someday going to form stars. We're looking at future stars and the light of young stars in this image that is rotating. There. That's the
There's more
Horsehead.
traditional orientation for you.
Yep. It's a great system. So do you have any...
mention that this program, this Nina program, this is free. Anyone can download and play with it.
And what's cool is you can run simulations of what can my telescope do ahead of time to figure out what you want to observe with it. Nina and Cyril are two different software packages that are very new, less than a decade old, and are allowing some really amazing work to get done.
Yeah, there's been quite a improvement in the tools available to amateur astronomers over the past 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah. And the
Things have
costs have dropped.
Oh yeah. You mentioned Cyril earlier, and I'd just like to point out that that's also another free program.
Yep. It used to be the only free software that was out there was IRAF, which is notorious for making people cry or making them learn to program. I probably did both more than once. Definitely did a whole lot of programming. Cried when it crashed my telescope while I was in the middle of doing things because it was used both to control the telescopes and to process the data. And when your software that controls your telescope crashes, your telescope no longer knows where it's pointed, which is when you cry. Yeah, it's amazing what's now available. And when I'm no longer struggling to fundraise, which is where all my free time is currently going, that free time that's currently going to begging for money on the internet is instead going to do research using telescopes. And I'm going to stream what I can and share what I can so that you can see all the things that I love as a researcher instead of just the things I love to communicate. This is what I'm dreaming of. Okay, so parting words before we go to the next session, IP.
Yeah, so I just took the previous image that we were looking at was a 30-second exposure, and this is a 200-second exposure that just came up. So you can see
perfect.
Quite a bit more nebulosity. And this is still in the hydrogen alpha filter.
So that is all hydrogen atoms where the electrons went, I'm excited, now I'm not. And when they went, now I'm not, they released photons in a shade of red that made it all the way to the camera on this telescope. And that's all excited gas that we're looking at. Chemistry. High school chemistry is how I know what H-alpha is. All right. Thank you, IP. And really, it's a pleasure working with you with these telescopes. I can't wait till we have a working Nighthawk. And
Me too.
It's going to happen. We're going to get there.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Best of luck fundraising.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. I'm going to roll those robots and be joined by On the Diagonal and possibly by Jason. He was having an allergy attack, so I'm not sure if he'll be here or not. And we're going to talk about, science and fiction and how they sometimes do and sometimes don't mix. So stay tuned. We will be right back. And I'm grateful for every name that's about to scroll on the screen. These are the patrons who joined us prior to December 1, and I'll be adding all the new names from this weekend next week. We'll be right back. Thank you.